Hi YouTube, so in this video I wanted to give you guys tips and tricks on getting started with street photography. So a lot of this will be kind of having to deal with your mindset as a street photographer or as a beginner street photographer, and how you can develop or adapt to certain situations that might cause you fear. And so I hope these tips help you out with your mindset to street photography, just because a lot of street photography is mindset, and so being afraid is pretty much 50% of all street photography. So if I can give you guys these tips, hopefully it can at least give you more insight on how to become more comfortable out in the streets. So yeah, let's begin. So street photography is scary, and to me personally, I used to have a lot of anxiety, and I still do now, whenever I was out shooting street photography by myself. And so one way I tackled that, or kind of reduced that anxiety, is to bring a friend with you. It's one of those things where it takes off a lot of weight on your shoulders, because you're not as afraid of, when someone does confront you, you always have that support in the back of your head, knowing that, someone's going to be there to not take the fall, but support you when you're talking to that person who confronted you. So bringing that friend with you is also a really good way of kind of slowly getting yourself used to taking street photography. And a good thing about bringing a friend is that you always have that second eye to look at the world differently. So you may see new situations that you wouldn't have seen if you were by yourself. But one thing with street photography with a friend is that you shouldn't get used to this sort of behavior. Don't make it into a habit, just because you don't want this to turn into a safety behavior that you start relying on. And what I mean by that is that you don't want, if you start getting used to taking street photography with someone, then it's something that you might not get used to doing by yourself. So slowly get used to doing street photography by yourself. Maybe go on days when there's not as much people outside, and shoot alone. And so you slowly acclimate yourself to being by yourself. And so yeah, shoot with a friend is my number one tip, just because it helped me out personally for my social anxiety, and now I'm able to kind of take on the streets by myself. So yeah, shoot with a friend. And before we get to this second tip, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting me and the channel when I started it this in December. And there's been a lot of support from friends and family, and I just want to say a big thank you to all of you who believed in my photography and my skills as a photographer. And so I'm very excited to see what 2021 is gonna bring along. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and hopefully you take something from it. But yeah, tip number 2 is as a street photographer, the one thing you look at is lighting. That's one of my main focuses when being out on the street. Other than that is subject, but we'll get to that later. But lighting is key. You always want to, lighting is different at different times, obviously. And so experimenting with that time, shooting at dawn or at night, can be really, really useful to kind of finding your style, but also getting really good contrasty lights. And so, use a lot of negative space when it's golden hour, and maybe use the lighting from lamps in cars when it's nighttime. Not only that, but they also bring their own set of challenges. So shooting at night, you're gonna have to shoot with a low shutter, and that means you sacrifice on your or image sharpness. And shooting at dusk is just getting out of that bed. So experiment with time. It's also a fun way to kind of start seeing your own photography style. So for me, I like to take photos around when there's a lot of harsh lighting. But recently I've been getting really into night photography. So that's something that I thought, I've been getting really into. So when you experiment with time, it's just good to have that versatility. It just means you can shoot at any time of the day, and you can get really good photos from it. So yeah, just experiment with time, but do remember that there's no bad time to take photos. Shoot whenever you want. is street photography still street photography without people? So that's a question that I ask myself quite a lot, especially when I started street photography. And to me now, after doing street photography for around a year and a half or 2 years, I figured out that yes, it still is street photography without people in it. But that's a common misconception that people have when getting into street photography, and try not to fall victim to that belief. Just because street photography is called street photography, not taking photos of people on the street photography. So don't feel pressured to take, if you're not comfortable with taking photos of people right now, don't feel pressured to do it just because you're not going to enjoy the process if you force yourself to do things that you don't want. So take it slow, and maybe you slowly get used to it. Another thing with that is sometimes, subjects without people in it can be more interesting. And so, especially right now with the coronavirus, there aren't really many people around. So street photography is a versatile and an evolving genre. So street photographers now are adapting to the situation of having no people around. So there's a lot of photos on Instagram that you see with barely any people, maybe one or two subjects. Yeah, it's sometimes objects are more interesting than having a person in frame. So don't feel inclined to take photos of people right now if you're not comfortable, and just go at your own pace and you'll slowly get used to it. Is gear important in street photography? Well, no, not really. You can take photos of, people on your iPhone, on a really old point and shoot, and it'll still count as street photography, good street photography. Because street photography isn't about the quality of your photo, it's about the story that it can tell through the lighting, composition, and the subject. So focus on those things rather than focusing on the quality of your camera. Just because, everyone has cameras nowadays, and anyone can be a street photographer. But I believe that you can only be a real street photographer when you take those three things into account: lighting, subject, composition, and the story that I can tell. So gear isn't important. Just don't fall into that belief again of having the best gear in the world, because you don't need that for street photography. And yeah, just make those mood boards. I'm going to tell you again, those mood boards are one of the most useful things to have as a street photographer. Not because, because sometimes you do get those creative ruts where you just don't know what to take. And so having that inspiration, on your phone, Instagram, Pinterest, it's just really good to kind of reinvigorate or rekindle that, that drive to take more photos. So what I usually do is whenever I'm on just scrolling through Instagram, now that you have the collection tab on, whenever I see a nice photo that I think fits my style, then I just save it to a collection, called street photography. And then whenever I'm going out on shoots, I usually have something to go off of. So making that mood board is a really useful tool for a street photographer, just because it gives you inspiration on what to shoot. And I don't mean copy the image exactly, but the composition and the lighting you can take inspiration from. Obviously, you can never get the same situation twice. It's very rare. But yeah, having that sort of inspiration just really helps you, stay up with your ideas and just keep shooting. Revisit your old work. That's one of the things I still do. I've only been doing photography for around 3 years, and I've taken a lot of photos, and a lot of them are just absolutely terrible. But if you look back at it, it gives you that motivation, that drive to keep improving. Not only that, but because you're always improving, your eyes change. How you see the world is different compared to how you've seen it when you first started. So when you look back at these old photos, you may see photos that you thought were bad back then, but now you think they're amazing. And so, yeah, that's mainly it. It's just seeing how you've improved and how that can keep you motivated to just keep improving. So that's it for the video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys got something from it. I definitely think that these are tips I definitely still use today. And so if you can get something off of it, then that would be great. Again, thank you guys for all the support these past few weeks with this YouTube channel and with my Instagram. And so I just hope you guys have a good day and Happy New Year's. Well, this video will probably be out after New Year's, but Happy New Year's anyways. So yeah, bye.